You tell yourself you'll start in a minute. Just one more scroll, one more video, one more small delay. But the task is still there, waiting. And the strange part is this: you want to do it. You know it matters. Yet something inside you quietly pulls you away. So you call it laziness. But what if the real reason is something your brain is trying to protect you from? Because most of the time, laziness isn't the problem. Avoidance is. Think about the moments when it happens. You open the laptop to work on something important. A project, an application, a message you've been meaning to send. You stare at the screen for a few seconds. Then suddenly your brain suggests something else. Check your phone, clean the desk, watch a quick video, anything except the task. At first it feels harmless, but after a while, a quiet narrative begins to form. You're lazy. You have no discipline. Other people can do this. Why can't you? And slowly, procrastination stops feeling like a behavior. It starts feeling like your identity. But here's the strange contradiction. You procrastinate the most on the things that matter the most. Important emails, career decisions, creative work, which raises a deeper question. If you care about something, why does your brain resist it? The answer has less to do with laziness and more to do with emotional protection. Your brain is not designed to maximize productivity. It's designed to minimize emotional threat. From an evolutionary perspective, the brain treats social and psychological risks almost like physical danger. Rejection, failure, embarrassment. These experiences activate many of the same neural pathways as physical pain. So when a task carries emotional risk, your brain doesn't simply evaluate the task. It evaluates the possible feeling attached to it. And if that feeling seems threatening, avoidance begins to look like safety. So the problem isn't laziness, it's emotional prediction. Your brain is trying to avoid a future feeling. There's a concept in behavioral psychology called experiential avoidance. It means avoiding actions that might trigger uncomfortable emotions. Not the task itself, the feeling behind it. Imagine your brain as a security guard. Its job isn't to help you grow. Its job is to keep you safe. When you approach a meaningful task, the guard quickly scans for possible threats. What if you fail? What if people judge you? What if you realize you're not good enough? If the emotional risk seems high, the guard quietly redirects you somewhere safer. Scrolling, snacking, organizing small things. These distractions aren't random. They're emotional escape routes, and the brain rewards them with quick dopamine, relief, temporary comfort, which trains the avoidance loop even more. So the next time the task appears, your brain already remembers the exit door. Breaking this pattern doesn't require forcing discipline. It requires changing how your brain experiences the task. Here are 4 principles that help. First, shrink the emotional entry point. Instead of committing to finishing the task, commit to touching it for 2 minutes. Behavioral psychology calls this activation energy. Your brain resists starting because it predicts a large emotional effort, but a tiny start lowers the threat level. For example, instead of telling yourself to write the entire report, you simply open the document and write 1 sentence. Once you begin, the brain often updates its prediction, and the task suddenly feels less dangerous. Second, separate the task from your identity. Many tasks feel heavy because they secretly test your self-worth. If this goes badly, it must mean something about me. That belief activates the brain's self-protection system. So create psychological distance. Instead of thinking, this project proves whether I'm capable, frame it as one experiment. Experiments don't threaten identity. They generate information, and that small shift reduces emotional pressure. Third, expect emotional friction. People assume motivation should come first, but neuroscience suggests the opposite. Motivation often follows action, not the other way around. The first few minutes of any meaningful task will feel uncomfortable. That friction isn't a sign you shouldn't do it. It's a sign your brain is adjusting to uncertainty. When starting exercise, writing, or studying, the first 5 minutes usually feel the worst, but once movement begins, dopamine and focus increase. Action rewires the emotional signal. Fourth, make avoidance visible. The brain prefers invisible habits, so bring them into awareness. Notice the exact moment you switch away from the task. What thought appeared? What feeling showed up? Curiosity interrupts automatic behavior. Instead of judging yourself, Simply observe. Interesting. My brain just tried to escape, and awareness slowly weakens the avoidance loop. So the real pattern looks like this: important task, then emotional prediction, then avoidance, then temporary relief, and finally a stronger habit. Once you see this loop, you stop interpreting it as laziness. You start recognizing it as emotional navigation, and that changes how you respond. Instead of forcing yourself harder, you lower the emotional barrier. One small action, one experiment, one moment of awareness. Over time, the brain learns something new. The task was never the threat. The imagined feeling was. Most people spend years believing they lack discipline, when in reality, their brain was simply trying to protect them. And protection isn't weakness, it's instinct. The quiet shift is this: you don't need to defeat your brain, you only need to understand it. Because once you see the pattern, avoidance loses some of its power, and the next time you pause in front of something important, you might notice the old escape route, but you might also remember something else. Sometimes the smallest step forward is simply choosing not to run away.